Welcome to another video.
Today we're talking about the 9 things we wish we knew before traveling to Bali for the first time.
Today we are not on Bali actually. We've left Bali and we've moved on to another place.
But you'll find out in a little bit.
You'll know soon.
We've been to Bali several times and we love going. But going there for the first time, there were some things we didn't really know. The first thing we want to talk to you about is planning ahead. The reason we say plan ahead is because there are a lot of different ways you can do a Bali trip. You can go as cheap as possible or live up a lavish lifestyle. Even if you are planning to travel as cheap as possible, expect to pay no less than $20 US per day.
I think it's more like $30 US. Unless you're going to be eating instant ramen in your room, 20 might do it then.
Even that, it's still questionable because you have to deal with accommodations, food, going places, doing things. It's definitely going to be more than $20. And Cindy's right, probably closer to 30. We've broken down costs into a couple of subcategories. The first one we want to talk to you about is food. Now, if you're in Bali, you can get nasi goreng or mee goreng, which is the fried rice or fried noodles. Those are really delicious, and we recommend getting them at least once while you're there.
Yeah.
The reason is because they're really good.
So you should try it and eat like a local at least once.
You can get really inexpensive nasi goreng or mee goreng at one of the local warongs or one of the local smaller restaurants. You'll find them anywhere that you're walking around just enjoying yourself. There'll be small restaurants, and they generally cost $2, maybe $3 at the warongs, or you can go to a more expensive restaurant and have a fancier meal. For example, if you were to go and visit one of our personal favorite restaurants, Lemongrass, you can get nasi goreng. But you don't want to go to a nice restaurant like that and get something that you can get for a cheaper price somewhere else. You want to go and get one of the nicer foods that they have established there.
Lemongrass is known for their Thai food. So when you go to Lemongrass restaurant, you're going to want to eat their Thai food because they do it pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So if you want Indonesian food, definitely go to a warung.
Another thing you want to consider is what type of hotel you're getting. You'll want to get something that is affordable according to your budget. You can vary your costs depending upon if you're going to be staying at a hostel or if you want to spend your time at a resort. Those different prices are really different. A resort is going to cost a lot more. You can get really nice accommodations for upwards to $150. Or you can go and spend $9 at a hostel.
And we've done all of those. It just depends on what will make your trip what you want it to be.
The next thing is transportation.
There isn't any bus or train service around the island, and the local bus is not very easily accessible.
It's more for the locals than it is for the tourists.
So you're going to want to either rent a scooter
Or use one of the rideshare apps.
Lyft or Uber is not available on the island. But what they do have is Gojek and Grab. And Grab is usually the one that we use most.
We recommend using Grab. We use it all the time. It's affordable and it's hassle-free.
But I've heard Gojek is a very cheap app to use as well.
So download those before you go. Makes it easy. That way you can leave the airport and get either a Gojek or a Grab without having to worry about getting a cab, which can sometimes be a hassle.
We actually do have a driver that we contact when we're arriving in Bali, and he picks us up and takes us to our hotel. And initially that makes it so much easier than having to deal with any apps or get connected to a phone service or Wi-Fi when you're at the airport. He's just there waiting for you. So we'll put his information into our description for you in case you want to use him.
The other thing that you want to plan ahead is what are you doing while you're there? For example, during the day you can go and take an excursion or just walk around town and do some shopping or relax in your resort if that's what you have. There are kiosks all over the island with people that have excursions available for you for reasonable prices. The other thing is you can go surfing, swimming, lots of beach activities, just lay out and get some sun during the day. And then at night, they do have a couple of really great locations that you can go and watch a sunset, or you can go and visit one of the nightlife events that are happening all over the island. And it really depends upon where you're staying. If you're going to be staying in the Canggu area, we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but that seems to be a little bit more touristy versus hitting up one of the islands or heading north on the Big Island. The next thing you want to talk about is when to go. There's 3 things that you really need to consider when going. 1 is wet season, 2 is dry season.
And the third thing is Nyepi, and we'll fill you in on that in just a moment. Because we've been to Bali numerous times, we've actually ended up there during some wet seasons and dry seasons. And we really didn't mind that because sometimes the wet seasons aren't terribly wet.
It's true. Sometimes the wet seasons are not as wet as you're expecting.
It's not like it's downpouring the entire time. More about that in just a second. Dry season is
Basically the summertime, so it'll be April to October. You still get rain once in a while, but it's not like what you're going to be dealing with in wet season. Dry season is also a little bit more expensive, so you've got to be aware of that. The next thing you want to talk about is the wet season. It's not as wet or as bad as they make it sound. It's not going to be raining the entire time, but things will be a little bit cheaper because it does rain a lot.
Usually what you'll find is that the rain comes mid-afternoon, so you'll have a dry morning and then a rainstorm in the afternoon, and that'll cool everything down, and then it'll be dry in the evening. Or sometimes that storm will be later in the day, even closer to nighttime. But then it rains and the storm passes, and then you have a nice evening after that. And also we find that being out in the sun during the hottest part of the day isn't usually what we want to be doing anyway.
The last thing you need to worry about when to go is Nyepi. It is the Day of Silence, and this year it happened on March 11th.
The date changes every year.
last year we came to Bali to experience Nyepi for ourselves.
We are back in Bali for Nyepi.
Basically what happens during Nyepi is everything shuts down for an entire day.
Completely.
They block off the windows so no light can get in. Nobody's out and about cooking, cleaning, shopping, anything. In fact, if you're in a hotel, what you need to be aware of, some of them will provide food while others won't. So you might have to go and get your own food and prepare for an entire day's worth of eating.
We actually did that for ourselves. We had a refrigerator in our room, so it made it very easy to store the
Snacks,
food
sandwiches,
that we purchased.
drinks.
We made some sandwiches. We kept it really simple. Maybe had some cheese and crackers. Just something to tide you over till that silent day is over.
Not necessarily something that you really want to experience unless you're just curious about what it's like. One thing that people do enjoy going for Nyepi is the day before Nyepi, they have a little bit of a celebration.
They're going to have a parade where they march Uga Ugas down the middle of the street for everybody to see. If you don't want to experience Nyepi yourself, you can check out our video.
The next thing we want to talk about, part 3, is where to go. As I said earlier, Canggu is a very popular destination. A lot of people like to go there and enjoy the beaches, the nightlife. There's a lot of things to do. Because Canggu is such a very touristy area, it's going to be very busy. So you're going to deal with traffic, you're going to deal with other tourists, but it's also going to be a location that you can get a lot of tourism done for yourself, booking reservations for places that you want to travel to. What we like to do is go to the Nusas or Gili Islands. They are very popular, they're more spread out, and it costs a little bit more to get to, but it's worth it in the end because of how much fun they are.
Some of our favorite time in Bali was on the Gili Islands. So if you have time, definitely try to fit that in.
Bali is a very large island.
If you happen to arrive and not want to stay in the airport area and the Kuta area, then the island is very big and very vast, and there's other areas that you can go to. There's Sanur, which is off to the east. You can go to the north. You can also go to Ubud, and of course Canggu, which is what we mentioned before. And there's also off the beaten path areas too.
Since we're talking about the busy touristy area, let's talk about development. If you do decide that you want to go and see some of the touristy things, be aware that there is a lot of development there, which means you're going to have to deal with construction, traffic, and a lot of people. And keep in mind, while you're walking around exploring, you might come across some of the areas that aren't quite developed yet. They're still working on it. So you might have construction noise early in the morning. You can't sleep in until 11 because the neighbors next door are rebuilding or remodeling.
Yeah, and they'll start pretty early.
They will. I mean, they are living their daily lives. It's like their jobs and stuff. Number 5, they do speak English sometimes. A lot of people are really good at speaking English.
So if you go there and you think you're going to have to speak another language, don't worry, because they do speak, most people do speak English.
It makes it a lot easier to figure out what it is that you want to do.
It does make it so easy. And that's because they have a very close proximity to Australia and get a lot of Australian tourists, which brings the English language over.
However, don't worry if you do run into somebody who doesn't speak English and you want to communicate with them. Google Translate has been a lifesaver for us while we're there. Download that app and then download the Indonesia to whatever language you speak so that you can translate it really quickly and just show it to them so that they know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and they use that all the time. So we found it very helpful while we were there.
Number 6 is cash. Have some on you at all times. If you don't, sometimes you're going to run into a place where that's all they'll take is cash. They won't take credit cards for certain payments. If you're at a Walrong or one of the smaller restaurants,
Yes.
they won't take credit cards. It also makes it a lot easier to negotiate prices. For example, if you're shopping and you want to get some souvenirs and you don't want to pay the prices that they're asking, negotiate. He will say that if you are new to the island and you've never negotiated before, Bali is a great place to practice negotiations. They actually kind of expect it. So they give you a price, you say, no, I don't want to pay that. Sometimes they'll say, well, what would you like to pay? Be reasonable, of course. Don't sit there and say, I'm going to pay $1 for a brand new bag. They won't do that. And sometimes you'll go into a store that the prices are not negotiable. Also, restaurants generally don't negotiate prices as well. But if you're looking for souvenirs and you don't like the prices you want to pay, don't feel bad just walking away. They might come down for you.
Sometimes they'll come down even as much as half of the price they're asking. And it's also really smart to have small bills because sometimes vendors don't have exact change, so you might not get all of your change back. But if you have small bills, you'll be able to make exact payments to them, which will be helpful for you and for them.
Next thing we want to talk about is their religious offerings. So as you're walking around, you might see them and they might be in your walking path. Just be respectful. Don't kick them or bump them. If you do accidentally, they understand it happens sometimes. Just apologize and move on. Number 8, they communicate a lot with WhatsApp. So make sure you get the app.
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp isn't really popular in America or in some other areas around the world. However, they do use it a lot in Bali. So we recommend downloading WhatsApp. You're able to do a lot with it. For example, if you have friends, communicate through WhatsApp. If you want to order food, you can do that through WhatsApp. Number 9, something we wish we had known a little bit more about is the monkeys on Bali. They are everywhere. So you will probably run into them if you're visiting a temple or if you're out taking a walk somewhere along a path. But they're not necessarily going to make themselves well known. If you're looking to visit the monkeys, they do have a monkey forest, and we recommend going there and enjoying that. Just beware, those monkeys are a little bit more aggressive, and they tend to look inside bags for food. They will also be known to steal your phones in order to negotiate food back from you. So be careful with that.
They're very smart.
You're very, very smart. So those are the top 9 things we recommend you knowing before you go to Bali. There are so many other things that you'll learn while you're there. It is an amazing island and a lot of fun.
And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate each and every one of you.
And stay tuned as we continue to travel around the world, taking you along with us.
If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so that you can continue to follow along with us as we continue on this adventure.
And as always, squeeze the day and be well.